Today we're sitting down with the incredible and uber-talented Sophie Corbett, a successful voiceover artist, presenter, podcast host, DJ, and menopause advocate. In my opinion, an absolute legend. Sophie's unique upbringing, with a famous and iconic father, has given her a wealth of knowledge and experiences, some of which she'll be sharing with us today. We'll be diving into topics such as women's health, the lack of discussion and support around menopause in society, mental health, and much more, including what we can do to change all this. You don't want to miss this conversation with such a gorgeous and talented being who's using her platform and passion to change the conversation about menopause. So let's get started. Welcome, Sophie, to Unpause the Menopause podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
Oh my goodness, what a lovely introduction. I'll give you your tenner later.
You're a very lovely person, so it was nice to write.
I'm good, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm okay.
Good. We start our day normally on our podcast with asking how your day starts and whether you have any plans that you put in place that in order to set your day up really positively, whether you have a routine or anything like that.
No, I don't have a routine. My days are all very, very different. From whether it's waking my youngest son up, Billy, he's training to be a boxer, with porridge. I get a text saying porridge and coffee, mum. So I take him porridge and coffee. The dogs, it always makes me smile. I'm in Scotland at the moment. So me and my sister went to a small holding this morning and fed the donkeys and the chickens and the goats and the sheep and gave them their hay and their food and their water. So that is awesome. And Highland cows. So I do always start my day pretty energetically, and that does help.
Yeah. So you start a positive way. Now, you've had a really quite unique upbringing with an iconic British treasure. Your dad is Ronnie Corbett, and I'm sure people are really interested to hear about him. And I wondered if you would mind sharing a couple of stories about him, please.
Oh gosh, there's so many stories. We were blessed to have Dad. He was he was a legend. But we made a documentary, actually, my sister and I and my mum. We were allowed to put a lot of input into it, called The Lost Tapes of Ronnie Corbett. And we were able to show the whole man, which for us is really important because he wasn't only obviously a bit of a genius and incredibly funny, he was always there for us too. And that makes him quite unique. I remember he said to me once, "You've got to be selfish in life, Soph, but as long as you take your family with you." And that's what he always did.
Oh, that actually gave me goosebumps. That's perfect.
Yeah. He was a man of very wise words. I tell a lot of my friends, he also said, "Don't look at life through tired eyes," which is a very good thing, because when you look and you're tired, everything seems too much and like you can't cope with it. But none of that would have been able to be pulled off either if it wasn't for my amazing mum, Anne. Which the documentary shows too, because she met Dad. She was a performer in the Danny LaRue Club, and they all worked together. But she gave up for us, and she'd pack the van up with the hamsters and the guinea pigs and the washing machine, and we'd go off to wherever Dad went. But there's, I wouldn't even know where to start with stories. We were very, we've all had the most amazing upbringing in life, really, and it gave so many wonderful things. And it's also made Emma and I who we are, which sometimes we go, why do we do that? Is it because also our upbringing was very different from anybody else's?
Because you were traveling a lot.
Yeah, because our dad was known by everybody. And we've also actually discussed recently that when we went out with him, we had to be well behaved. It's just you're impacted, and it makes you quirky and kind of the way we are. He always wanted to keep us very grounded. I think that was the Scottish in him. He didn't want us to be flash or so our life was very grounded, and then suddenly Jimmy Tarbuck would walk in the lounge, so we've had the most lovely privileged upbringing, which also sometimes felt a little bit complicated, sharing your dad with the world.
But I love that he put family first.
Oh my gosh, how lucky.
Now, you've had over 20 years experience in the voiceover industry, and you've worked on some pretty huge projects. Do you want to tell us about some of them? Or which was your favourite one, in fact?
I suppose one thing to tell people, oh gosh, favorite, I don't really, I mean, I have done so many now, I suppose over 20 years, but I went into it because I was a singer and was on tour in musicals. And then I had Dylan, my eldest son, and I wanted to be home to put him to bed. And somebody said, an agent said, you should do voiceovers. And I thought, what are voiceovers? I hadn't even noticed them. Anyway, I started doing voiceovers, but I'm dyslexic. So yeah, I used to get absolutely terrified and have to stop at every toilet driving from Tooting into Soho because I was so nervous. If you told me at school I was going to make a living of reading, I'd have gone, you're having a laugh. I can't read. But actually, I mean, over the years, so it just shows you guys out there with dyslexia, we can conquer. But yeah, it's been a privilege to do them. And I love them. I actually love it because when you see in a really amazing commercial and you're the kind of cherry on the cake, you can really put your all into it. And quite often when you're a performer and you're auditioning, you feel a bit like a lamb chop, you're singing your heart out and, not getting the job or getting the job. Whereas a voiceover, it's just simple. They listen to your reel, they book you, you show up and you do it. And hopefully it then gets played. So I feel really blessed. And I entered the voiceover industry when it was predominantly men and they were looking for women. Now it's really hard to get into it because I used to do Talk, and it was either me or Helen Bonham Carter. And, so you're kind of up against people that are incredibly famous but sometimes they want the voice to be unrecognizable. They don't want so it's give and take. But no, I feel really lucky. I love voiceovers and I've conquered the dyslexia bit. I just say, do you mind? Can you give me 5?
And do you learn it then in advance, or do you just actually read it and just take your time?
Yeah, so I know what the product is. So what's lovely with voiceovers is, and for me, is that I've done enough that I know I'm good at them. I'm entering the room with confidence, and I know they want me because they know I can sell a Jaguar or I can help sell, L'Oreal or Huggies nappies or Aldi. So I just say, can I have 5 minutes? And I can't read a book. I wouldn't do that.
Books. You're not touting yourself out for that.
Yeah, unless they gave me a year.
You've had some great role models in your life, and you've mentioned your mother as well, who's a very impressive woman in her own right. Did you have any other female inspirations growing up that have perhaps shaped you who you are?
Yeah, my Nana Dolly, my mum's mum. You go and see her for a chat and you might feel a little blue and you'd come out feeling like Liza Minnelli.
Just because of her positive outgoing, or how did she do that?
Yes. She just was full of love and conditional love and I got this from my dad as well, and my mum and my Nana and Julie, and Julie's no longer with us. Julie Dewhurst, I'm going to say that loud and clear. They moved to Vegas. They all worked in the circus. There's Brian, Sally, Nikki. We grew up with them. And Julie was a diamond woman. I mean, you cannot beat brilliant women.
I don't know Julie Dewhurst. Was she famous, or what? How did she enter your life?
She should have been. Yeah, they were in the circus. So they were Brian, who is still one of Mum's best friends. In fact, Brian knew my mum. They were mates, and then together they met Julie and Dad. So that they knew each other before they met their partners. And Brian was a wire walker. He's just actually retired from being in Cirque du Soleil at the age of 91.
Are you serious?
No, I'm serious.
Oh,
and he flew over here on his own. He drives. He's got one of those amazing, bullets, those old-fashioned bullets, and he gets it on with the dog and drives out to kind of the desert. He's just incredible. And Julie was his wife, and she died of cancer. It's most probably, I blank years, but it was too young. And she was one of these she was just wonderful. She made the best spaghetti bolognese. Her dinner parties, there'd be people flick-flacking behind the sofa, and she'd always end up singing in soprano My Funny Valentine. And so very lucky to have all these amazing women in my life.
You have had quite a different upbringing. Now that you're sort of a mother and a matriarch of your family, how do you work it with your boys? Do you sort of take that joie de vivre and that slightly alternative craziness and try and bring it into their lives? Or do you have quite a normal life now?
What's normal? Billy and I dance whilst we're cleaning our teeth. We sing often. So does Dylan. We love music. We are, all very similar actually. Yeah, we're normal in one sense, but I've been brought up, if you can make anything, I just love making anything special that I can, and my kids have been brought, they are the same actually. Um, whatever you have, make the kind of best of it, if you're going to make crab linguine, make it really tasty. And yeah, we all like having a laugh. You've got to with life. I mean, there's moments to really cry, and there's moments to get down and work, and there's moments to try and laugh.
You only live once, so you've better make it a good one and have fun while you do it.
Yeah, you got to try. And man, it can be testing at times.
That probably slightly nicely leads into menopause then, because you've become a menopause advocate, haven't you?
Yes, I have. And it first started when I lost a friend to suicide. And then when I hit 50, it was virtually a birthday present, actually. I started getting the menopause. And then I recognized, wow, if this had been 5 stages on from what I'm feeling, I could see her and I could see her struggling. I didn't know what was happening at the time. And I knew her marriage was breaking down and she was really struggling with that. And she lit up a room, she was amazing. And she took her life. And I went, oh my God, I had no idea you were going through the menopause and no one saw it. And then I started feeling what I was feeling, and I started vlogging. And then I do menopause nights too at Rockwater in Hove, where I do it with 2 specialists, Elizabeth McCulloch, who's a GP in hormones and has a private clinic in Hove in London, and Sarah LaRue, who's an NHS nurse who specialises in the hormones and menopause. And they're my girls, and we do it, and I want to hold people around it. Yeah, I just think, and I do say to the room, some of you will feel it gently. Some of you will think you'll, be able to cope with it. Some of you'll hit a mid-range where you can't, and some of it are completely lost, terrified, anxious. It totally impacts your life. And I don't want people to feel they're alone.
Yeah, it's so important to feel you can talk about it. What were your particular symptoms? What did you feel?
Well, the hot flushes, or flashes, as they say in America, not funny. I mean, my best mate for 2 years or 3 years before would go, feel the back of my neck, and it was sweating. She was always hot, and you kind of go, yeah, bit sweat, and then you get it. I had to go to her. I'm so sorry. I had no idea this is what you were feeling. So the hot flashes, but I would have 24 a day, 1 every hour through the day and through the night. Then feeling just really emotional, just feeling like I'm not gonna be able to cope with this. I mean, it got so bad for me. It's like I think we are brought up not wanting to take anything, and try and be brave and strong. And I get that, but it got so bad that I went on bioidentical HRT because I wasn't coping. And for me, that was a really, really big thing.
Yeah. But I think now when we talk about it, it's not about coping, is it? It's about replacing those hormones that are leaving. So actually, it's kind of, it's almost like we need to change the narrative on that.
Totally. I'm kind of, yeah, and I'm over that now. I am over it, but it was leading up to it. And now I would like to say to people, if you're really feeling wobbly and that you just feel different and life's a bit harder, go and speak to somebody. I mean, I also take the supplements, which I find really helpful. But it was like when I used to have really bad PMT and somebody would say, why don't you put a bit of lavender in your bath? And I'm like, no, that's not going to cut it. Yeah, so I do really think it needs to be spoken about, and women need to also feel still beautiful, because historically our generation is still frightened of HRT because of our mothers all coming off it dramatically because of breast cancer. And that isn't actually the truth. It does have, you have to be mindful if you have breast cancer in your family, then I would speak to somebody that really knows what they're talking about. But if you don't, you're even more likely if you're overweight or you drink too much alcohol. So I think that's worth knowing. But I also think the ageism bit, when I was doing my YouTube channel, Holly, my girlfriend who came on, who's an actress, wasn't going to come on because she said I won't get any work. People, they look at you like they think you're dried up and shriveled up. And when I have my nights with my, the audience, I look around and I see just the most beautiful women sitting in front of me that are wise, that have been there, done it, and got half the t-shirt, still got, and I look at them and I go, can we just all look at it? We're not old and we're not shriveled up. Let's not be embarrassed, because a lot of people don't want to say I've got the menopause because you're saying, actually, I'm about 50. And sometimes you're not. You can get the menopause early, obviously. But I just want women to also not feel ashamed of where they're at and feel they can't speak.
Also, we're all living so much longer now. It's not like 50 sort of 30, 40 years ago. It was completely different than it is now. I feel like I'm in the middle of my life. I've still got masses to give, masses to live, still got the joie de vivre for life. It's not like I'm doing my knitting in the corner with grandchildren on the way.
And totally. I mean, I put a post on my Instagram with Emma Thompson coming out and dancing in a suit saying, oh my God, she's got the moves. Yeah. But no, absolutely. But historically, back in the day, we were put in mental institutions for having the menopause. And it takes 9 generations to outweigh a negative. And that's with people making an effort. So we still carry all the shame around it. So we have to kind of have a little word with ourselves and say, it's okay to talk about it. And we need to talk about it, and we need to support each other.
It's really interesting. From my personal perspective, so I set up a supplement business that helps menopausal women. And we did this, we wanted to do it. And the reason we did it was to help other women. And then all the people say, well, you have to become the face of that brand. You have to start talking about it. You have to do it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that I'm perimenopausal and I've experienced this and this is why I'm setting it up. And then you just have to, bite the bullet and realize that actually you are still vibrant. You are still got a lot to offer. But even now, I had a couple of months ago with my husband just saying, I don't want to be the face of, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to put myself up as the person. But then it's right. There's solidarity, though, isn't there? If we all do it together.
Yeah, if we all do it, exactly. It is solidarity, and actually, not worrying what other people think. If it's coming from a good place and it's coming from the heart, it's the right thing to do. And you're right, not to be ashamed about it. You're doing brilliantly.
Well, that's very kind. But I have to admit, I came to this.
I'm loving the supplements, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I came to this pod with a bit of trepidation because you are definitely an expert podcast host. And so I was slightly worried about coming and doing this chat with you. But your famous podcast is Rock Water in Conversation With. And you do some of them live and some of them just one-on-one, don't you? So some of them live. When I say live, I mean with an audience.
I love the fact you're saying expert.
Well, you are. I've listened.
I'm learning actually, not to go all that. No, I've been really, really lucky. I love speaking to people. I also do Rock Water has been amazing for me. Luke Davis, who owns it, if you don't know what it is, it's a three-layered restaurant on Hove Seafront, and we're just about to launch one in Bournemouth and Sandbanks. But he gets me, and he allows me to be me, and he allows me to do a thing on a Monday morning called So Talk, which is a space where people just come and talk, because I just feel, again, life can be amazing and life can be challenging, and I don't want people to feel on their own. So I do that there, and then from there he said, I want to do a podcast, and the only person I want to host it is you, Soph. And I just thought, that's so divine. Thank you, because I really love speaking to people, and I've been lucky enough with this podcast to speak to people like Dame Kelly Holmes, Norman Cook, Rob Brydon, Tony Bellew, Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith, which was hilarious, and that's just to name but a few. and Davina McCall did one for me, who is also a menopause advocate. I did that just face to face with her, and some of them have been in front of an audience, which is a totally different ball game, actually. But from the podcast, I really just, another thing I want people to speak about is that if they can be honest, and also there is no shame in being vulnerable. I mean, I don't know whether you've read the book, the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. And what's the bravest thing you've ever said is help. And it's true. That doesn't make you weak.
Yep. Especially as women.
Yeah. Because we try and, oh my goodness, have our homes so it looks like homes and gardens, be a size 10, our children perfect, our husband's happy, our partner's happy, the dogs walked, flower, it's exhausting.
And I think that's what your skill is actually as a podcast host, is that you get people to really open up. And I know that you've talked to Davina McCall about her fear of abandonment and lack of trust. And I think that's so important for somebody who comes over as so incredibly confident as she does, and so successful. And she was willing to talk to you about that, along with talking about menopause as well.
Totally. I mean, that is the whole point. And, I'm lucky enough to speak to people that people really admire, and they've pulled off whatever they do to the height, the highest accolade of achievement. But then they're also human, and people forget that. And that we all go through what we go through, whether it, losing loved ones or illness, or not having any money, or falling out with people, whatever the things are that really hurt. Everyone goes through it. And so if these people can be brave enough to go, I really was challenged at this point in my life because of this, and this is how I help myself get out of it, it can only help others. And I find, if I would love, you could speak to somebody, a homeless man on the street, and what his life's been like. And then you can speak to a champion boxer, and whoever you are, every person's got their story and have had a life with ups and downs. And I find it fascinating.
Absolutely. And what about looking at menopause in particular, because I know that that's what a lot of our listeners want to hear about today. What grinds you about the lack of support that there is at the moment for menopausal women? Is there anything in particular that annoys you?
Yes. GPs are amazing. But man, if anyone's listening and you're, a GP in the beginning of your career, do the menopause as your module, please. You will be busy, you will be popular and very loved. I go into the GP. Last time, and I was saying it wasn't working and I wasn't coping, and she just went, yeah, it's a bit like that. And there was a trainee GP. They said, do you mind? And I said, no, he can be there. And she just said to me, well, yeah, it can be like that. And I was like, it's not really a good answer, is it? And she actually went, no, I suppose it's not. And then as I was leaving, I said to him, please do the menopause as a module, because it's half of the planet are women, and we need a better answer than, can be like that a bit, when you're not coping. No.
Give you more. Did she listen to you and actually give you something extra?
No. And that's why I hold evenings like I hold, and I'll keep doing them. And people can message me if they want, find me on Facebook or Instagram, Sophie Corbett, because I don't want people to feel alone. And also another thing is, I remember a husband contacted me about his wife, actually, and I got back to him, and then I spoke to her on the phone, and she was just like, well, I'm frightened of my doctor, and I was like, okay, then ask for another doctor, because I am lucky in the way I am confident, I suppose, and outspoken, and some people aren't, so if you haven't got a relationship with a doctor that is understanding you, then go up to the desk and say, this doctor isn't getting me, I need more.
Often practices will have menopause experts or somebody who's done the training, and it might only be one of the doctors in the GP practice So make sure you see that one.
Absolutely. I mean, my doctor doesn't have a menopause specialist.
Your whole practice doesn't.
No. And it's a big one, you know. But I'm lucky enough to know Elizabeth and Sarah. And Elizabeth McCulloch is MS Skin, and Sarah is Holistic Menopause. Just so if people want to message them, because they really know, they know their stuff. But I think if we just keep speaking and people do evenings and that hold it, the evenings are really, I think, fab, actually, because we're able to really get to the nitty gritty. And there's a Q&A at the end, so people ask, and quite often they've had medical, a hysterectomy, or, bless them, cancer, and, they're there, they know, so they can say, well, come and see me, and we can hold them and answer people's individual problems or questions. And also what was really lovely is last time a couple of men came with their partners.
Just about to ask that. I was literally just about to ask that. Do you ever get any men? And did they come to support their wives?
Yes. I know, I said, I don't want to embarrass you, but I just would like to say I do notice there's 2 men in the room. Thank you. Because if the men can hear, it's just not their partner at home going, oh, I'm so, and they hear these wonderful women speak, you would only leave feeling a lot more understanding of the situation. And they do. In fact, the guys that do my mic, because we've got radio mics or handheld mics for the evening, there's always guys that do the sound. And, they come up to me and went, I had no idea. And I was like, no, I know. So it's wonderful. And the next one I'm going to do, actually, in the advertisement of it, I'm actually going to invite the men to come. I would like to see half and half.
And what do your boys know about menopause? Do you talk openly in the house?
Yes.
And what's their understanding?
I'm not sure quite how much they listen, but one is 18 and one is 25. So, but they definitely know it's around, and they know what I do, to support people, and they watch my things and they listen to my podcast. So, it's in the room. So when their partners in 20, 30 years hit the menopause, they will remember it was a thing, and to respect it and to hold it. And it's just also pretty crappy timing, isn't it, in life, the menopause, when your children are leaving home and all going through adolescence, and they've got their hormones raging, and you're losing your parents or they're poorly. It's like, who timed this? So I also think it impacts in your life because of the timing as well. It's a lot to hold, a lot.
It's like the perfect storm, isn't it?
It is like the perfect storm. So I also want to remind women, it's really, I also did the voice actually for an app called Stella, which is all about the menopause. It's brilliant, actually. It's got lots of advice. And one thing also, which I'm really good at telling other people what to do, by the way, is what it comes across is find time for you. This is time to find time for you. You need space, whatever that may be. So I cold water swim, I walk my dogs, I dance club, I go to my funk fit with JP, I dance. I went to dance school, so it's like dancing with Bruno Mars for an hour. It's amazing. So that's what I do for me.
That's good. There's a good mix in there as well.
Yeah, not the same. Yeah, all different things.
Excellent. Well, that's been absolutely great. Sophie, the time has absolutely flown by. That's us at 35 minutes already. Geez, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us today. And hopefully we can chat again another time, because that's been really great fun. Thanks, Sophie.
Definitely. Thanks for the work you're doing on the menopause too. You're doing brilliantly. And the supplements are great. So I really thank you.
Oh, that's very kind. You're the menopause advocate, Sophie, so thank you for that.